Hey, can I have your attention? Can I have your attention real quick? If you guys can, everybody start to be seated. We want to try to get going on this. We do have a really, I think, a great program for Mark, but a lengthy one, and there's still people still trying to find seats. So keep fellowshipping. We're going to have time after this too. Seen a lot of people here I haven't seen, and I know you guys have too, to celebrate Mark. But thank you. Just try to find a seat. We'll let these people come in and we'll get going. Thank you.
Present arms. Order arms. Bow. Face. Forward march.
On behalf of the President of the United States, the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag for your local honorable and faithful service. Patriot Guard 10 up, present arms. Order arms.
Good morning. My name is Scott Mabry, and I had the privilege to spend not as many years as a lot of you with Mark, but I got some quality time. I'm going to. Okay, I will. So as I'm sitting up there and I'm seeing all the Dodger blue, all I can see Mark is doing right now is laughing and smiling from ear to ear saying, can you believe all the Dodger blue in Northern California? So anyway, I told him. I love it. Go blue. It was hard for me to say, I got to be honest, but Mark knew that. He never called them the Giants. I said, we were on a text with some of the friends. I said, how'd the Giants do today? I knew how they did. How'd the Giants do? He said, didn't check the score on the midgets. That's what he used to tell me. He never called them the Giants, and I think that's some of the Dodgers lingo. I'm not sure yet. Well, it was definitely Mark's. Could you bow your head in prayer for me, with me, please? Lord, we're not happy today. I mean, we're sad and our heart is breaking. But Lord, we thank you for Mark. We thank you for the years that you gave him. You thank you for the friendships that he made. You thank you for running to the call in law enforcement and prior to that, serving our nation. We thank you that he deposited so many good things in our lives. But as I said, Lord, I'm not happy and none of us are. We wanted him a lot longer. But I know, God, that it's not my will, it's your will for the benefit of your glory. So I'll accept that. You and I will have a talk one day about this, but I'm sure there's many things we'll have talks about. But I do thank you for the creation of Mark and the love and the honor that he gave. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. A few things. You know, I'm a guy that likes to write a lot of notes, and I'm worse than Mark, I got to be honest. You put a mic in my hand, I can talk forever if I have a crowd. So I'm going to try to do, Lord, help me to make this short. But here's the bottom line. Let me tell you something, what I feel is in my heart. Law enforcement, your active military law enforcement that are here. Mark loved law enforcement all around. But I want to tell you, Mark would tell you today, don't look at the circumstances and the situations that are around you. Because from the very beginning, you were called to do a job. And you're doing that job. Follow your heart. Continue to do that job, to keep us safe, to protect those that cannot protect themselves. Do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged in the situations that are surrounding you. But know you were called to do a job. Take care of your families. Love your families every day. A lot of retired law enforcement in here, I think, would stand up, and Mark would stand and tell you, love your families. Tell them you love them every day. Don't forget about them. Military, Mark would say, thank you for honoring the flag. Thank you for standing this nation to support our country and to keep evil away from us. Mark would say, thank you, and may God bless you for all your service, your active and your veterans. Dean, stand. Anybody got any tissue? No, I have some. Mark would say to you today, thank you for the guidance you gave me. Thank you for raising me in the Christian home. Thank you, even though you know that at times I might have went right or I might have went left, I always knew what you taught me. Thank you. I love you. That's what he would tell you. So God, he would say, I love you, bro. Take care of mom and dad for me. I love you, and I'll catch you one day. You're in my heart. Jimmy and Colton, your dad would tell you today he's proud of you. I know there's been situations and things where you may think that he's been disappointed in you or whatever. That's human nature, but he's not. He would tell you, I love you. Follow on with what I tried to teach you in my heart because I did the best I could. Forgive me for the things that maybe I did wrong, but I love you, and I'll live in your heart. Just reach out, and I'll be there. I'm cutting it off. Scott, come on up, and we're going to share. Scott's brother's going to start to share some of this, and so...
a couple weeks about what to say about my brother. I can say I'm extremely proud extremely proud of the man he became. Growing up with him, one of the few people in the room that can say that they knew him his entire life. Sorry, I'm a little nervous and a little verklempt. I think I'm allergic to the bagpipe music. Growing up with Mark is hard to describe. In fact, Mark is the type of person that's hard to describe. He's one of a kind. My brother was one of a kind. Probably from the first time I ever heard this phrase, I immediately thought of my brother. And when somebody said, he's a man that never met a stranger. I may struggle to find the words today to talk about him. That's something he never had a problem with, was finding words to say. But growing up with him, we loved each other tremendously. We fought like cats and dogs. Sibling rivalry would be an understatement, but I think we made each other better. We competed with each other, physically, mentally. I thought he'd always be involved in law enforcement, but just not in the capacity that he ended up his life. He did what he wanted to do, and he was very stubborn about that. But even though we fought like cats and dogs growing up, anytime one of us was away at a friend's house, it was always, when's Mark coming back? And he'd say the same thing about me. And then I think when I went off to college, we became the best of friends. And I'm just so proud to be the only person in the room that can say I'm his, not real brother, but biological brother, because I'm looking out and I know he called the vast majority of you his brother or sister. If you happen to be here today and didn't really know Mark, I know there's a couple, because I've met you this morning, that didn't know Mark, but wish you had. You really don't have to do anything but look around. And this says everything. This is all you need to know about my brother. He had a special gift that few people have, where you meet him and you feel like you've known him forever. And it never ceases to amaze me. Anytime I come to town and we're out somewhere and he's run into somebody he knows. I think everybody in Reading knows the guy. But what made him the man? I mean, you look in the first couple rows of family that are here. He loved his family tremendously. God, family, friends. It was in that order. Dodgers were kind of in there between family and friends, I think. But growing up, I can say I am speaking for Mark right now, because we talked about this many times, that we are only the men that we became because of those two people right there. The Mark that if you know what you love most about Mark, most of what he is and what he became, because of those two human beings sitting right there. And he would say, and I'm saying for him, thank you, Mom and Dad, for everything you did for us. We definitely wouldn't be where we are without you guys. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Scott, I don't want to start naming names because I'm going to forget somebody, and there's been so many people that have reached out to mom and dad to help with this, but just, the tremendous amount of love that you guys put out there is just amazing. And again, if Mark's measure of success was based upon how many people in this world loved him, he's the most successful person I've ever known. He didn't get cheated. He loved life. He lived life. He lived life to the fullest. So if I would just encourage you, I'd live every day. Live every day like it could be your last. And that's what he did. He just lived life. He lived more in the last couple years than I think I've lived in my entire life. So I thank you all for being here. Thank you for putting up with me struggling to find the words to say. But we're gonna laugh a lot. We're gonna cry a lot. But above all, we've got a guy that is unforgettable. That's all a piece of us. And we're going to be smiling and laughing until our last day, talking and thinking about Mark. So thank you all.
The best. God saw him getting tired, and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around him and whispered, "Come with me." With tearful eyes, we watched him decline and fade away. Although we loved him deeply, we could not make him stay. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands put to rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us he only takes the best. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aaron Sockwell, retired lieutenant with the Shasta County Sheriff's Department. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and telling the immediate family how much we all loved Mark and pray for comfort and peace in your hearts, knowing that Mark is walking streets of gold hand in hand with his love of his life, Robin, and in no more pain. Dee, Stan, Scott, Jimmy, Colton, we all love you and we're praying for you. I first met Mark in 1991 while working in the Shasta County Jail. Mark had returned home to Shasta County after having served in the U.S. Army and working for the Los Angeles Police Department. I had worked 12 years in Southern California, leaving the Oxnard Police Department to raise my family here. For those of you who don't know where Oxnard is, it's about 45 minutes north of LA off of Highway 101, where the sewer meets the sea. Because of our prior experience, we instantly bonded. His ID was 317 and I was 318. Did we have fun in the jail? Yes. Did we clown around a lot? Yes. That's what kept us sane, not being on the streets anymore. Plus, I like Mark's silent nature, his shyness. But the guy could talk. Speaking of talking, his Markisms, or Bridgeisms, how we used to call them, were classic. Straight up. That a kid? Unbelievable. Come on, kid. You know what I'm talking about. You're my hero. There's more, believe me. So as I tell a couple stories, which I know the statute of limitations are up, when I put my hand up to my ear, can I get a straight up out of you? Can I hear you? Straight up. All right. In 1993, Mark and I were given layoff notices due to budget cuts needed within the county. Mark and I looked at each other. What's a budget cut? Our cities down south have never had budget cuts, so we were completely blindsided. But out of every bad thing comes a good thing. Because of our prior experience, we were told the two of us could go work out on Lake Shasta as extra help deputies. The only downside was we wouldn't be paying into our retirement. We had no benefits, and we made less money. But thank God for Robin and Deborah. They had great jobs and benefits and pulled us through some tough times. The position was for 6 months with no guarantees we would get our jobs back. So we proceeded to have as much fun. I can't say everything, but as we could while we were on the lake. For those of you who don't know, our boats out there that we use on the lake are jet boats. There's no propellers on them. These jets, when the outdrive is up out of the water, could spray a tunnel of water 50, 75 feet, 15 feet high. And Mark knew I was a little picky about my uniform and my hair. Don't touch my hair. And so one day we're up on Squaw Creek Arm having lunch, and we tied off to each other. When I decided I better get back to my side of the lake, I had the west side of Pitt River Bridge, and he had east side. And so I untied us, and Mark began to drift away about 15 feet. And I was stowing away my line. I wasn't paying attention to Mark, and he had turned his boat around and yelled at me, "See you later, brother." I turned around to wave and say goodbye to him. Yep. He hit his jet evader full throttle and just drenched me. The impact pushed me into the windshield of the boat, and I was wet from head to toe. It looked like I had actually jumped in the lake. And Mark was laughing hysterically, and at one point I thought he'd actually stop breathing. So at first, my first instinct was I was a little upset. He messed up my hair. And then I started laughing, and I told him that was a great get. Mark, with a big old smile, looked over at me and said, "Straight up." About 4 months goes by, and we haven't heard anything about getting our jobs back. Again, we met up mid-channel of the Pitt River Arm just west of Jones Valley, and we tied off for lunch. Mark asked, "If we don't get our jobs back, are you going to go back down south?" I told him most likely. That my chief had told me if I didn't like it up in Shasta County, he'd take me back in a heartbeat. Mark told me he may go back or look for a job with Reading PD. I told him I'd been there, done that. That was long story. About that time, a bald eagle comes swooping down on the water, grabbed a fish, and flew off with the fish dangling in his talons. My jaw just dropped. I looked at Mark and I said, "I'm not going anywhere." Mark replied, 2 months later, we got our jobs back at the jail, and there's 100 more stories I could tell about the lake. Let's just say we had a lot of fun. Over the years, Mark and Robin would attend Dodger midget games with Deb and I. Oh, I meant Dodger Giants. We traveled to softball tournaments where Mark and I turned a lot of double plays. Mark was shortstop, I played second base. Mark was a great athlete. Basketball player, baseball, golf. He could shoot pool, he could play darts. He was very competitive. One day, after getting off graveyard shift, Mark says, "Hey, let's go bowling." I said, "All right." I said, I stink at it, but it sounds fun. What are we playing for? He just said, "Pitcher of beer." That's all right. So I get there early, grab my clown shoes, and head to the little kid's rack to get a light ball. I wanted to show him how hard he could throw it. He comes walking in the door carrying a 2-ball carrying case on wheels. And I say, "Hey, what's up with that?" He goes, "Oh, I used to be in a league with LAPD." So he pulls out 2 balls, his names are engraved on them. A pair of shoes that don't look like my clown shoes. And he proceeded to just thrash me. I blamed it on the shoes and the little kid ball. One other morning, we get off graveyards. Yeah, we worked a lot of graveyards. More fun, less supervisors. Sorry, Don. So Mark and I, along with John Green, Bob Anderson, we decided to go to Tucker Oaks Golf Course, even though it was raining. The guy in the pro shop says, "Are you serious?" We told him we'd just it was our Friday, and we just got off graveyard shift and just looking to relieve some stress. The guy says, the course is all yours, no charge. So we get to the 5th hole, and we're having a blast, and we were just soaked. And pretty sure it's hole 5 out at Tucker that has the pond you have to hit over. Mark, being on the dive team and his love of water, turns and asks us, how much you give me if I swim across the pond? We just started rolling. So John and Bob and I start cracking up, and we agreed to $20 each. I wrote him a check. Just to mess with him a little bit. So Mark jumped in, took nothing off, not even his shoes. And we all started laughing, and he didn't hear us laughing, but as he's swimming off, what Mark couldn't see was the groundskeeper had put blue dye in the water. And as he was swimming, it looked like the Exxon Valdez behind him. For you younger folks, look it up. He gets about halfway across, and he just starts laughing, and he can't make it, so he makes a sharp turn left and comes over to the shoreline. When he gets out of the water, he can now see the dye, and he's blue from the neck down. He looked like a Smurf. I said, dude, I think that's the funniest thing I've ever witnessed. Mark replied, last story, when someone told Mark an eventful story or something they had accomplished in their life, like walking across the Pacific Crest Trail, or just anything that he really thought was, awesome for this person, Mark had this saying, and I'll get to it in a minute. Mark and I had gone to the same barbershop for 20 years, Cypress Square Barbershop, man's last stronghold. DC, Tim, and the other barber was Roy, heard many of Markisms. And later, Tim told me a story of a time Mark was getting his hair cut, and Roy started talking about a time when he rode his Harley across the United States and had visited various states. And Roy gets done with his story, and Mark says, "You're my hero." Today, Mark, you are our hero. Yeah. I can't end without mentioning Mark's love of Grape Ranch Golf Course. Mark managed the course after retiring from sheriff's office and helped Becky and Jason Munson, the owners, get the course turned around. With Mark's big character and love of people, he began bringing in golfers from other courses. Mark joined the men's club, which he loved each of them, and they knew it was genuine. The course was his home away from home. You were there for me, Mark, in 2014 and 2019 during my bouts with cancer. I hope I gave you as much comfort as you gave me. I love you, bro, and I deeply miss you, and we'll see each other again. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I know you guys are looking at these cowboys up here. I'll go and explain them in just a minute. I have to put this Dodger jersey on. I know Mark loved the Dodgers. I'm a Royals fan, but I'll put it on anyway, because we share the same colors, and we've been to a lot of the games. So, my name is John Long. I'm here with my family, my wife, Ivania, my kids, Kyle and Zach couldn't make it. I'm here with another buddy of Mark's, a good, great buddy of mine, Don Bender and his wife, Margaret, and her brother, Ruben. We are kind of known as Mark's Southern connection, his LA connection. So as you can see in these three photos, these three handsome young men, I'm going to take you guys back to 1988, when us three, Don, Mark, and I became Los Angeles police officers. Don came on the department before us, a couple months before me, and then Mark came on a couple months after us, or after both of us. We did our probation together in East Los Angeles, known as Hollenbeck Division, and it just became apparent to all three of us real quick that we were bound to be together. They later on called us the Three Amigos because, as our wives can vouch for, we were never apart. Robin, our wives, we did everything together in Southern California. We went to Dodger games, we went fishing, we vacationed together, we did absolutely everything together. So I'll have stories later on. I know the statue's up. I've known Mark for 35 years, but there's so many that I would be up here for hours. But, you know, we finished our probation there in LAPD. When you get done, they send you to another division. Mark and I went down to 77th Division, which is in South Central Los Angeles, for those of you not familiar with LA. Don went to Southwest, which are two connecting divisions. Even though we went to different divisions, we were still always together. We would eat together, we would party together, we would hang out together, we were always together. So, in our eyes, he's not just a partner to us, he's a brother. You know, we've known him for 35 years. To be honest, I know Mark and Robin had intentions of coming back to Redding. They wanted to come back with their family and, you know, serve up here in their community. But I am partially to blame. He came as early as he did. Back in 77th, Mark and I were working one night, busy night. 77th back then, there were shootings, 3 or 4 a night, whatever it was. And we got into a little car accident. Well, we decided not to tell nobody. So we just decided to change the tire, get rid of it, you know, put another one on and just continue our night. Well, back then we had a dual purpose car, which is unmarked cars, so our detectives used them the next day. Well, the detectives said, hell, there's something wrong with this car. So they took it to our body shop or whatever and determined that somebody had probably crashed it the night before. And that was me. I have a tendency not to drive very well. I've crashed several cars on our department. But our department, probably like the rest of yours, didn't take that very kindly and decided, you know what, we're going to give John and Mark 10-day suspension. Well, you know, Mark's perfect. I ain't handling no 10-day suspension. So he goes, I'm going home. So Mark and I, said, Mark, I'm going to go with you. Let's go up to Redding and check this out. Well, so we started doing that. I mean, we first applied with Oakland PD, and we said, this ain't for us. So we decided we're going to, try to come back to Shasta or Redding. Well, Mark, obviously, he got selected pretty quick. Don and I, not quite so fast. But so we applied, I think, for every city, agency, county around here within probably 50 miles. And eventually, at one time, I was probably partners with a few of you because I was up here a total of 1 week. I got hired in the mid-90s or whatever it was, and my youngest son was just born. My wife and I moved up here. We got an apartment. I think I spent 3 days in your guys' jail working it and said, hell no. I'm going back to Southern California. So I called my captain and said, Captain, I don't like it up here. Can I come back? And he says, yes, you can come back as soon as you want. So, but I spent like a week up here. But it's nice. But I found that LA was probably a little bit better for me. But we had such a great time getting to know Mark. All the years we'd come up here and do houseboat trips. We'd still vacation together. He definitely loved the Dodgers. I don't think I still haven't quite figured out how he thinks yelling through the TV they're going to hear him. But just like Don's wife, Margaret, they just seem to think that they can yell through this TV and these players are going to hear them. But Robin and us, we would go to a bunch of Dodger games. We did lose connection for a little bit up here as our family started to grow and our kids started to grow. There was a little lapse of time that we regret, I think. All of us do, but we reconnected. And we ended up going to Cabo a few times. We ended up still doing our fishing trips, and we would go to spring training out in Arizona. But I know these last couple years were really tough. And Don and I and our family tried to spend as much time as we could with Mark after we got the news. We went to Vegas for Super Bowl. Don and I took Mark down to Cabo. And I got to tell you, Colton and Jimmy, your dad absolutely loved you. And You know, he would tell Don and I down there how much he loved you and wanted to spend more time. And he tried and tried as much as he could to get every minute out of this. You know, and he loved life. I mean, I'd never met a guy that nobody liked this guy. I mean, everybody loved him. Even the bad guys in LA when we were down there, everybody loved him. Nobody liked Don and I, but everybody liked your dad. So, I mean, just even the bad guys, I mean, you couldn't find anything wrong with him. So I do have one little story. I remember one of my first country concerts I ever went to, and I think Don and I and our families went, and Robin and Mark went. We went to see Garth Brooks at the LA Forum. And you guys know Mark. He had to play the part. He had to look good. So Don and I, Mark, here we go country western shopping. So we had to go out and buy Wranglers. We went out and bought Justin boots. We went out and bought Stetson hats. And we bought these, you know, flashy, colorful, long sleeve shirts. And we went to this concert. And I bet our wives have said it was the ugliest shirts they ever saw in our life. These things were ugly, but we thought we looked good. But we absolutely love Mark. Like I said, he's more family to us, brothers, not just the Blue because of, you know, our law enforcement and our military experience, but just the way he was. He was just that kind of guy, like Aaron would say and like Scott said. I mean, everybody loves him. We tremendously miss him. We'll miss him every day. Every Dodger game that I go to or watch on TV, I'll be thinking about him. But so unlike Scott, I am going to thank a few people that spent some time with Mark the last couple of years and really made every day of his life just better. And so I'm going to thank Ray, obviously. Thank you, matter of fact, for being there on the day he passed. I know that probably meant a lot to him to have you there. Phaedra for putting together a lot of stuff, the golf tournament. You know, we were in Vegas playing Topgolf. Stan was there, and Scott was there, and I tell you, you talk about his love for golf. The man on one leg shot better than any of us could have ever thought about doing. My God, I don't think I've ever seen a guy hit a golf ball so far. Scott, obviously, Aaron, everything you've done, he talks about all you guys all the time. And Jason, I got mixed up Aaron and Jason over here. But yeah, I thank you guys for all you did for him the last couple years and trying to make his life better and, you know, help it extend it out as far as he can. So, and then before I close, I just want to thank Stan, Dee, Colton, Scott, and Jimmy for allowing us to be part of his family because we love the man and we will always consider you guys family. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, it's really not a good morning. The other day, Colton read something, and he asked me if I would read it to all of you. So, Colton, this is for you. When Colton read this, he said, "This is exactly what my dad would want everybody in here to hear. Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we must all take, and for each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to friends we know, and bury the sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go." Stan, Dee, Colton, Jimmy, Scott, my heart breaks for you. As every speaker has spoken before me, I want to thank you for allowing me to share in Mark's life, the love of him, and to be part of your family. I believe I speak for all of us that come up here today and speak when I say our love for you does not end because Mark is gone. and we will be here for the rest of your lives to help you through all of this. There's a poem called The Dash. Some of you may have heard it. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke with the following dates with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represented all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it not matters how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show more appreciation, love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and often wear a smile. Remember, this special dash might only last a little while. So while your eulogy is being read with the life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say and about how you spent your dash? I read that poem because for me, Mark's dash was huge. As I look out across the crowd, Mark touched people from his time as a DARE officer, his time with the Little League coach, his traveling baseball teams. I don't know, there might be stories in Tahoe, rental houses and pools. His time at the sheriff's department. I don't know, there's college students and lake days. There might be stories about going to my parents' houseboat and knowing that when you entered the cove, you had to honk your horn or turn on the siren to make sure that mom and pop had their clothes on before you went to get lunch. I don't know, could be true or not. To the time he spent in the military, his brothers and sisters, the one thing that everybody knew and held true was there would always be, hold on just one more minute, I'm not done yet, you can go. Just one more minute. I met Mark prior actually to dispatching. I had a friend who was dating one of his good friends, Tommy Benfield, when they were in school. And I met him over at some apartments that were maybe a little seedy off of Lake Boulevard. And then Mark graduated and moved away and we lost touch. And one day when I started working at Shaftscom, Mark's like, why do I know you? And I said, I think you guys, one of you or your friends dated my friend. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And I said her name and he goes, oh, I remember that girl. I do know you. So my memories with Mark go back to the early to mid 80s. Mark was the same then as he was the day that he passed away. Mark's dash wasn't just about his passion for his job. It was about his zest and passion for life. If you couldn't find Mark on the lake, you would find him at a golf course, or the batting cages, or a baseball tournament, or traveling, or watching, what's that team in blue? Oh yeah, the Dodgers, I can read the shirts from here. The week that Mark passed away, we were supposed to be on a trip to LA to go watch his beloved Dodgers. I made a promise to Mark the day that he passed. As I held his hand, I will be going with his family from LA and some true good friends, and we will be going to the Dodgers in June. As much as I hate to say it, I made Mark a promise that I would actually attempt to cheer for his team. But I will always be a, what did you call it? A midget fan at heart. But a true friend will do anything for the people that they love. So Mark was occasionally known to indulge in a beverage, or 6, or however many. I'm sorry, Dee, but I know you know that. And if you could find him at the right place and time with the right music going, those of you that remember Record Range back in the early 2000s might remember the Ooga Chaka Baby Cha Baby dance that he and Stan Morgan used to do. I wanted to ask everybody to stand and do it and play the music, but I was told that might be inappropriate for church. Mark loved his Reading Rodeo family and the Asphalt Cowboys, and they loved him. It was impossible to go anywhere with Mark where somebody did not stop and talk to him. And it was always just one more minute and we'll go. But the dash that's the largest is the one that he had for his family. Dee, Stan, Colton, Jimmy, and of course, Robin. Many of you might not know, but the yearbook that is out front, if you open the very first page, is Mark's love letter to Robin, and where he said and professed his love for her and how she was going to be his bride and they would live together forever. I know today Mark is in heaven with Robin, looking down, and I hope that he is proud of everybody who is here, the words that have been spoken, and the love that is in this room. There is one thing that I promised Mark that I would do. At the end, Mark told me there were some things that he wasn't proud of over the last several years of his life, and he wanted everybody to attend to know that although he pushed some people away, he loved each and every one of you. He hopes that you understand that he was human and he makes mistakes. He wanted me to remind people that you never leave people at their lowest and you fight harder for those and you hold on to them until the end. Mark knew who was family, not only blood, but chosen, and those people should be proud of themselves. You each got Mark through the roughest moments of his life, and to the end, he knows who those people were. They never left his side. They never asked for anything in return. And he made me promise to tell you that he loves you all, and he appreciates every one of you. John said something when he was up here, and he spoke about the golf tournament. There is somebody in the crowd that came up with the idea, and that would be Randy Stutzman. And I want to thank Randy for coming up with the idea and helping with the golf tournament. That tournament would not have been possible or as successful as it was without the help of Randy and several members that are in here today and the community that loved Mark so much. To his Grape Ranch family, I am deeply sorry for your loss. I know how much he loved you guys. So, to my brother from another mother, I'm your sister from another mister. I know we're going to do a radio thing later, but this is from the 3 dispatchers that I know are here. SHASCOM 155, SHASCOM 192, and SHASCOM 200. Lincoln 122, 1010, we love you, we're proud of you, and you will always be in our hearts. You made us proud every day that we got to work with you, and we will miss you forever.
My name's Terry Nielsen, and I started with the SO for 11 years, and then I made that switch. I went over to the PD and finished 19 years with them. I get to know Mark shortly after he got up here. I found that we had a lot in common. Law enforcement, softball, baseball, golf, of course, Dodgers. To which I'm an avid fan too, so we had an instant bond. And as everybody said, you know his personality, you know the kind of guy he was. I mean, he was the kind of guy you couldn't help but love when you met him and talked to him for a short time. I loved his laugh, I loved his sense of humor. But I'll admit, I tried to get him to come over to the PD with me on more than one occasion. I even tried to guilt him. I said, Mark, your buddy's from LA, man. You're PD. Come on. I did it. You can do it. he wouldn't do it. He never did. He loved the sheriff's office, and he loved the troops there. Mark, he loved mentoring. He mentored kids, Little League, mentored new officers, and made such a good impression on them. Such a positive guy, and just a guy that you couldn't help but be drawn to. Mark and I played a lot of golf together. Many of us did. And he was good. He was really good. And we competed. We pushed each other. We talked about that, how we liked pushing each other playing golf. But he was better than me. Every once in a while I could keep up with him, but most often he won. And he was so competitive, it's been said. He didn't like losing. I remember one time, I forget the course we were playing, but we teed off, and we both hit really good drives down the middle. And when we got up to our balls, I mean, they were about 3 yards apart. And I saw, I'm like 3 yards ahead of him. So he's looking at his ball, he's looking at me, and I said to him, hey, don't worry about it, kid. Nothing to be ashamed of with that drive. You're right down the middle. And so with his quick wit, he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I backed off the driver there. I wanted to make sure I stayed in the middle of the fairway. So, and then of course the next hole or whenever it was, we teed off again, similar circumstance. We're middle of the fairway, and of course he's ahead of me. And he looks at me and he goes, hey T, nothing to be ashamed of with that drive. Gave it right back to me, and I said, yeah, well, remember, don't pick on your seniors, okay? I'm a little older than you. But God, we had a lot of memories, from playing golf locally and tournaments and the police Olympics who played golf, and going on trips either to Scott's Cabin or up to Sun River. So many outings with him and so many great memories. I'd like to talk a little bit about closer to the time that he left us. Mark and I would often meet for coffee or breakfast, and more so in the last 6 months or so. And we talked a lot about our cancers, our faith, of course the Dodgers, but we had some really good, deep conversations, and the reality of what could happen if the worst should happen. And Mark knew it was coming, and he was okay with it. He had resolved to himself that he lived a full life, a good life, and if this was what the Lord wanted, then it was okay. He dealt with it, and I appreciated that. Boy, we had a group text going. There's about 6 of us, I think, on a group text, and we'd always be saying things back and forth to each other, especially when the game was on, and to the point where it drove a couple of guys crazy. But one day, I think it was close to the end of Mark's passing, I think it was Aaron said, hey, you guys noticed Mark hadn't been answering his texts recently? And I'd text him a couple of times, and he didn't respond to me, and you're right. So Aaron says, I'm going to go out and see him. And this was, I think, 2 days, where are you, Aaron? 2 days before Mark passed. And after his visit, he got a hold of all of us, and he said, Mark's really not doing well. They said he's kind of gone downhill fast, and think of him and pray for him. And so, anyways, I made plans to go out the next day to see Mark. And Dee and Stan said, yeah, absolutely, come on out. And so I did. And I went out there, and I wanted to visit with him, and I had a scripture that I wanted to read to him. And it was a scripture that had given me a lot of comfort when I was first diagnosed and facing that reality. But when I got there, Mark was having a really tough day. He was having a lot of problems, and so I didn't get to visit with him. But I said, I'll be back tomorrow. And so the next day came around, and I knew Scott Mabes. I knew he was coming into town. He flew from Arizona, as did Dan, to see him. And we made plans to go. We were going to go over and see Mark together. And before Mabes could get here, I'd received word that Mark had passed. Well, we said, well, we're still going to go out, and we'll visit with Dee and Stan and do what we can to support him. So we went out there, and Mark was still there, but we had a real meaningful time together, just sharing some stuff with Dee and Stan, and Scott was there, and his wife, and Jimmy and his girlfriend, and Colton showed up with his girlfriend, and we just felt really privileged and honored to be there with them, and for them to allow us to share some really personal time at that moment. And I think it meant as much to us as it did to Mark. But we got to say our goodbyes, our final goodbyes to Mark, and it meant a lot being there. I'd like to just end it here by, I wanted to read the scripture that I wanted to read to Mark. And I read it because I hope it brings some comfort to family and to everyone. But I know it did to me. And it's a verse that many of you are familiar with, it's the 23rd Psalm. But when you're in that situation where, you're facing potential death at some point, serious medical circumstances or whatever, it was really a comfort to me. So I'd just like to read it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul, and he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I believe that. God bless you, Mark. God bless you, family. As everybody said, we feel like you're a family too. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Good morning, or good afternoon by now. You've been sitting there a while, I know, and on your schedule, see I'm the last speaker, so that's a lot of pressure, because you guys are wanting to get out of here, and I've only got about an hour and a half worth of material, so. My name is Dan Kupski. I spent 44 years in Reading, and spent over 28 years with the Reading Police Department, and my wife, Judy, couldn't be here today. She just had some shoulder surgery, so we're here to support, and I know she's here, and so I'll try to keep it as brief as I can, but I wish that these speakers ahead of me, it's a tough act to follow. I wish I'd known Mark all those early years. I caught up with him probably, if you're doing a game thing, a lot of game situations we talked about here, but it looks like I caught him late in the fourth quarter. But, it's late in the fourth quarter when the professionals and the true athletes rise up and you see their best. So I caught him, I would say, at his best. To Dee, Stan, Jimmy, Colton, and Scott, I thank you for the honor and the privilege of standing here today and being able to speak and honor this military veteran, a thin blue line warrior, a God-loving father and son, a man with a big heart, an amazing positive attitude, and a man I was proud to call a friend. A lot of you are familiar with challenge coins. There's one that says, "The righteous are as bold as a lion," and I would add, also as brave. Mark fought this hideous disease like a champ, right to the closing bell, with an attitude that never wavered. He took on life like he did his golf game. One shot at a time, don't get down. Always play forward. Don't let troubles sink your attitude. And to his friends, he was always an encourager, always. I never worked the streets with Mark. I'm a little older than he is, but my first recollection of hearing about Mark Lillibridge was through the Reading Peace Officers Association put on a golf tournament every year. Yeah, I hear that. And Sheriff Pope always got a good golf team from the sheriff's office, and he come up with this guy, this deputy named Mark Lillibridge, always on his team. And they always seemed to win, because this guy could hit a golf ball. And so you golfers in the audience, I think Mark Lillibridge was the true definition of a ringer, so to speak. So there was a reason we always came in second, third, or fourth. So that was my first interaction with this Mark Lillibridge guy. My next interaction with Mark was through DARE Camp. You know, he was a DARE officer. Well, I go out and help work DARE Camp, which was a camp for kids out at Whiskeytown Lake, and all put on by law enforcement. My daughter was a camper there, later a counselor, and she always talked about this Mark Lillibridge guy. Well, I get out there and meet Mark and see Mark, and I could tell why. The kids loved him. Outgoing, gregarious, positive, fun-loving, smile as big as a room. And that was my next contact with Mark Lillibridge. After that, after I retired, and a couple of years after that, I got into teaching. So I taught ROP, Administration of Justice, for a couple of years. One day, I'm down on East Side Road in my classroom, and I look out in the parking lot, and there's this Mark Lillibridge guy in uniform. So I walk out and say, "Hi, how you doing?" And he's there because Colton's in the automotive class right next door. We got talking and interacting, and I said, "Mark, you got to come down here and talk to my class." And he did. He talked to them more than one occasion. Positive role model. The kids loved him. It was like, you know, it was like bringing in Johnny Carson. It was awesome. They actually loved him. He was always a big hit and an encourager too. Then in 2017, my wife Judy and I, we pulled up stakes and followed our family. We moved to Buckeye, Arizona. A retired two-person family. Naturally, you buy a 4-bedroom home. Not knowing why, but it was nice at the time. And so you'd be the shock we had a couple of years later when I'm scrolling through Facebook like we all do, and I see a message that says that Mark Lillibridge is getting cancer treatment at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, which is less than 10 miles from my house. So I reached out to Mark. We made contact yet again. And the greatest thing that ever happened to me and my family. We reached out to Mark and said, he's down here for treatments, and well, my gosh, let's bring you over for dinner. So he would come down for treatments, and I'd go pick him up, and he'd come over, and we'd have dinner, we'd shoot pool, he'd kick my butt. I say butt. He was a darn good pool player. He played pool like he played golf. He was tenacious. And the first time we're sitting there playing, and looking, I said, "You don't have a shot." And he goes, "No, I'm just going to jump that ball and put it in the corner pocket." And I go, "This is my table. It's a nice table. I can jump a ball." Boom, he did it. No problem. He goes, "My dad, we had a pool table when I was a kid, and I spent a lot of my teenage years, playing pool." "Oh, you're a hustler." Okay. I sort of felt guilty because Mark would always thank us. My whole family took him in. He loved my grandsons. My grandsons loved him, and our dog Copper took to him, and he took to Copper, and he'd always walk in the house and go, Copper dog, come here." And so it was a great connection. But I always felt guilty because he would be thanking me, and I'm sort of thanking him because when he'd come down occasionally, we'd sneak off and play golf, and I was getting some great golf tips. So we balanced things out. Mark was, one story I can tell, but Mark was about to go after chemo for a long time. He was about to go major surgery. They're going to go in and find out what was going on. And so he's facing this major surgery, and so we better play a good round of golf. Surgery was the next day. So we call up Brother Scott. Scott drives over from Gilbert. I make the tee time. We all go out and play golf. And Mark literally kicked our butt, didn't he? And he shoots in the mid-70s or whatever. And this guy has some illness? Are you kidding me? I'm somewhat healthy. And this guy, anyway, he was a great golf player. After Mark's recovery from surgery, after a while, he was set to do 8 weeks of intense radiation. And I told him, Mark, you don't want to stay in a hotel, do this 5 days a week or whatever, right? Why don't you just stay with us? And we got room. Yeah, okay. So he stayed with us the whole 8 weeks. And during that time, we played a lot of golf. He would actually talk to his radiologist and say, listen, I got a tee time at 9. Can I squeeze in, whatever? And in my Thursday group that I got him involved in, we'd have different tee times and we'd play different courses around. And sometimes he'd say, okay, how far is that golf course? 30 minutes? Okay, take me 25. And he would plot it out. And there are times, I swear, he'd roll into the parking lot, jump out, grab his clubs, jump in the cart, and tee off within 3 minutes. No warm-ups, no nothing. And still kick everybody's butt. It's amazing. Well, about that time, we learned that my fellow coworker, Terry, was in need of some cancer treatment, and Mark had talked him to coming down to Arizona. So then Terry and Jerry would come down, and pretty soon our camp was developed, and they'd sometimes come down at the same time and be there. And we'd play cards, we'd have dinners, we'd pray, we'd talk, we'd laugh and joke. And who do you think was the life of the party? Usually it was Mark. We even had field trips, and Mark and Terry would joke that I, being the camp counselor, needed to get us a little mini bus, a short little bus, to take the campers on little outings and stuff. So that was always a lot of fun. But Mark was always the cheerleader. As you imagine, Mark, in that group, we never ran out of conversation, or at least listening to it. And I remember I introduced Mark to the chief of police of the city of Buckeye. But I said, Chief, you need to know this guy's sort of a talker. And so after they met on a few occasions, Chief come to me and says, he's a talker, but that man can hold a room. And the chief became an endearing friend, just like everybody that ever met Mark. Here's another example of Mark's spirit. When he was getting the chemo treatments, he'd come down, they'd hook him up to chemo, and he'd have it for 2 or 3 days, and they'd unplug him, and he'd fly home. So one day he calls me, he says, hey, I want to play that Falcon Dunes course, the Air Force course right there. It's not far from you. I go, yeah, we'll do that. And he goes, okay, well, I get unplugged on Friday. Why don't you make a little tea time later in the morning? I go, are you really? Mark, it's summer in Arizona. I go, I don't care, that's all right. All right, so I make a tea time, and we tee off like at 10 o'clock or something after he gets unplugged, and we're out there playing, and he's talking about how great the course is and the greens, and he's a little upset when maybe a putt doesn't go or whatever, and he still literally kicks my butt, but he's going, wow. And I go, is the heat bothering you, Mark? He goes, it's not the heat. Heat's nothing. He says, this chemo's getting me, man. But he had a great time. We finished, it was 112 degrees. But he made it, and he made it look good, and he stayed positive the whole time. That was Mark. As time passed and the treatments didn't seem to be taking their toll, doing anything, Mark continued to stay positive. He said, I'm putting it all in God's hands. He said, no matter what, he was a blessed man. He talked about the family constantly, his boys, his friends, his brothers, the people in this room, and all the people that you saw come up and spoke. And such a positive guy. And through that ordeal, I got the chance to meet Dee and Stan. And I could see why Mark was such a kind, caring, positive soul. And to use Markisms, I guess you talk it, and put it in Mark's words, you guys were money. Straight up. And you hear what I'm saying? I never get, God bless. Oh, man. There were so many of those things. We'd play cards, and we'd be sitting there playing cards, and the cards would come out, and he'd go, God bless. Oh, he was hysterical. We laughed about him. We're all here to support the Lillibridge family and remember Mark. And I think I speak for everyone here when I say we'll never forget him. I know Mark made an impact on my life. His friendship was golden. His laughter was infectious. His golf tips were spot on. And his positive attitude made everyone around him better. And his conversations, although exhaustive at times, were informative. And God bless him, they were always from his heart. Now, I'll always be golfing with Mark, because I'm going to be putting his initials on my golf ball. And every time I lose one, he's going to be laughing. I know he is. Just lost one yesterday, didn't I? And also, if you hung out with Mark for more than 3 or 4 seconds, every third or fourth word was about the Dodgers. And boy, did I hear about it, because, you know, you're Northern California, you got to root for the midgets, right? I moved to Arizona, he goes, you're probably rooting for those Diamondbacks, aren't you? You know, Dodgers. And then you combine Terry Nielsen and Aaron Stockwell and Scott Shiflett, and it's like having Vince Scully in your ear on a recorded loop all the time. So to close this out, I just want to make Mark smile, because I know he's watching all of us in between heavenly rounds and tea times up in heaven, to know that, Mark, my brother, I was in law enforcement. And you know, when you're in law enforcement, you always back the blue.
Hello, my name is Scott Shiflett, and a lot of people talked about how competitive Mark was. I had the honor of meeting him at Topgolf in Las Vegas at the beginning of April. And we're playing, and I'm kicking his butt, right? I looked at him, I says, you gonna let me kick your butt like that, Mark? He goes, I got cancer, dude. You're gonna give my grill like that? Next thing I know, he's up there, can barely stand, and this dude is lofting balls on target, on cue, and kicks all of our butts. And that was Mark, very competitive. And one other short story. So early on when I met Mark in probably 93, 94, we were sharing stories about growing up. And I asked Mark, I said, how come you never get in trouble? He says, I never got in trouble because I never wanted to disappoint my father and mother. And he never did. And Stan and Dee, you guys are rock stars.
I'm Larry Schaller. I had the great pleasure of hiring Mark twice. As was explained by Aaron, shortly after a number of our fine men were hired, men and women, we had to lay off 21 people. And Mark, of course, was one of them. And Aaron was another. And you know, our effort was to find jobs for all of them in the interim until they could be rehired. In any case, that was the case, and Mark came back. I will just say that Mark, he lived life with a passion. There have been so many things told that describe him. But I would ask you to just join me in giving Mark a big round of applause. Let him hear how much we care for him.
Anyone else?
Hey guys, most of you guys don't know me, but I'm Mark's oldest son. I just wanted to thank you guys for showing up and celebrating such a wonderful human who just has so much love and it's just heart. And just want to say thank you guys for being here and showing your love and respect. Thank you.
Mark asked me a few weeks ago, if you have a sore neck, you will probably, by the time I get done, walking back and forth because I'm a pacer, but We'll ask you why on the latter days. What we see in Mark Lillibridge and why he affected so many people, I believe it. You can. Mark Lillibridge became a big rock of gold in his heart. Mark was created to do the thing, the laughter, the friendship. So I said, Lord, so what do we do with this? And I'm going to close it out real quick, because I can go on for long. This is what I felt in my heart. How did this affect? I'm going to tell you what I believe. Everywhere that Mark went, and every person he talked to, and everybody he played sports with, and everybody he talked about the Dodgers with, and everybody he talked on the phone and everything, Mark took, even though he didn't know this, he took a part of that stone, and it was chiseled off, and what he did is he placed it in your pocket. He placed the part of that stone in your pocket. What does that mean? What I'm going to ask you to do and challenge, because this is what I feel Mark would ask you to do. Not because Mark was so great, but because Mark was core of the individual who he was, that God became him to be, that's who he was created. But there was a lot of wonderful, great things about Mark Lillibridge that I'll never, ever forget, and neither will you. So I'm going to ask you to do this, and if you don't, that's okay. In a low private time, one of these days, or in your prayer time, if you're a believer or whatever, take out and ask, just talk to whoever you want to talk to, and say, Mark, what stones did you give me? Because there's going to be some revealing of some stones that he put, because that's what we're created to do as humans, is to be kind and loving and and have fellowship together. Take those stones out in your own way and ask him what were these? Because Mark Lillibridge was the guy that wanted to present love, and he wanted to present joy. He wanted people to love their families. He wanted people to believe in the United States of America. He wanted people to believe that the cops were there for good and not for bad. We all need that this day. We need a little bit of Mark Lillibridge's rocks to come out of our pocket and expose it in our life today. Mark is a wonderful person, and we all know that, and I could go on forever. Again, I want to thank the Lillibridge family. I mean, thank you. He's a wonderful man. He'll never leave my heart. I know he'll never leave yours. He'll never leave my heart. Thank you.
Well, I guess I should tell you how I know Mark. I met him a few times through Forrest Bartell, my father-in-law. And one story I do remember was at Forrest's retirement party. I was playing music kind of off to the side. And Mark, I could tell he kept looking over and was like, had his drink. And pretty soon he keeps getting closer and closer. And then he put a chair like 5 feet away from me. And I was just like, awesome. Hey, do you know this one? Like, he's like, Forrest, where have you been keeping this guy? Anyway, I didn't know Mark super well, but in 5 minutes, I mean, you can tell he's as genuine as they come. So family asked if I would play the song that he wanted me to play here, as I Can Only Imagine. So I'm going to do that. I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, oh, with my heart feel, will I dance for you, Jesus? Oh, love you, be still. Will I stand in your presence? To my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak it all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I will do is forever worship you. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel when I dance for you, Jesus? Oh Lord, you be still. Will I stand in your presence? To my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak it all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Southcom 122.
122.
Southcom 122, I'm 10-10 for the last time. I want to say thank you for always keeping me safe. I also want to say thank you to all my brothers and sisters in law enforcement for always watching my back and allowing me to get to this point. I also just want to say continue to watch over each other, keep each other safe, and take care of your families. I wish you all a happy holidays. 122, I'm out.
Copy 122. Thank you for your service, and we've got it from here.